all the permitting and things done. I actually got an email from North Florida Professional Services, which will come up before the council, the next council meeting, to start the Swanee River Water Management permits, the DEP permits, wetland delineation, and get all that started.
So have there been any changes with that?
Not as far as I know, and a lot of this will depend on what's.
That's good.
And just to be clear, on none of the planning on that, and you mentioned about hospital moving it back a little bit, does that have that street, but the road around there itself, that's not any threat of having to be closed, is it?
No, now the way we had planned, no. The way we had talked about it, because it's still, there's a buffer. Been addressed and take care of it.
So, Mr. Chairman, may I speak? So, is there like, in your department, is there like a plan that you know where it's supposed to go? I mean, I know we've been on this, like you said, 92 years and we've done all kinds of stuff on it, but now that it's actually coming to fruition, is there a plan that says it's going here and that's where it's supposed to be? And
North Florida Professional Service would have, whatever the last plan that you all submitted, that's what will be submitted as Swanee River and to be permitted.
okay, thank you.
Greg Bailey, not Greg Bishop.
Greg.
Phil Bishop.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Year, or maybe it was last year, I don't know, lost count after COVID, but they took it out of the budget. And so when I called them about it, they said they just took it out of the budget because it was unused, but that the money's still there. So we would need to, I guess, contact them about that. 50, and they took
still feel that it's important that they be identified, signage be placed here, and, we can, consider those, in our budgetary process. But it needs to be done, I think.
Do we need a motion?
Can I say something?
Go ahead.
I think we're talking about two different signs. The park signs we're talking about, and then we're also talking about welcome signs, like welcome to Lake City,
Mhm.
and then on different ends of the town. So I don't want to forget about, I know we're talking about park signs, but that's something we need to make two different distinguish.
Probably two different motions.
And since they're not on both things, they're not all in the CRA. So if we're recommending anyway, we're advisory, can't make anything happen anyway, but we can just ask. Can we make a motion to the city council that they make a plan for, cities signs for our park and welcome signs for the 4 entrances into Lake City?
I don't see no reason why not, why we can't, and then it would be considered in our budgetary process. Appropriate funding for it. I don't see why not, why we can't make a recommendation to it.
And then you need your style too, to stick with your presentation of your town, historic or modern, or whichever way you want to go. So that's important too to consider.
Make it all a plan. The city sits down and makes a plan for the welcome signs and signage in the park, and have some sort of a cohesive plan on how to make it look welcoming and like know what we're doing, kind of. Instead of just piecemeal.
Well, I think all the, we need to, well, it'd be my recommendation that all the park signs be consistent, or very much similar, rather than have one look one way and another look another, but as much as possible, have them all, similar.
You might want a sign committee,
Mm-hmm.
Might do what?
a sign committee.
Well, I don't want, well, in my opinion, I don't want to make it complicated either. I think if we're gonna do it, we need to decide, that we're gonna do it and, just move out with it, but identify what they're gonna look like, choose them and place a cost onto it and go from there. But it needs to be done.
I think, Ms. Moses is right, Mr. Jefferson, if you had some people just like give them a time frame
Mhm.
that doesn't hang out there for 6 years, and say, we'd like for you to come up with a design for the parks and another design for the entrance, the welcome to Lake City. For everybody on this advisory council to look at and then present that,
So you're suggesting that we develop a sign committee?
Yes.
If I'm not, somebody tell me if I'm wrong, Mayor, our committee can't develop another committee. I
Well, I
don't think.
think you can have an informal committee, like we've done that before with this, looking into the banners and different things like that. So if you wanted to just kind of appoint a couple of people to look into it, and come back with recommendations, it wouldn't have to be a formal committee.
Okay,
Steve.
Yeah.
They'd have to meet in the sunshine with notice.
They would.
It's in cost for the job.
Yeah.
well, any suggestions on what our approach should be then?
Y'all just be the sign committee.
Huh?
I'm sorry, I don't mean to do that. Well, y'all can just serve as the sign committee.
Yes, sir.
It'd be easier. thing to me, unless you wanna have some more meetings.
Could we ask city personnel to come up? Because I know, Brian, you've already done some research on signs, haven't you?
Yes, ma'am.
If they could just maybe just come up with some people that you do business with, some ideas on some, for north, south, east, and west, welcome to Lake City signs, and then maybe, and then just present it to us,
Yeah.
At the next meeting. And Terry, you're
Ms.
you're
Phillips is
creative with
Very
that.
creative too, if you can work with Brian, if they can give us something to look at, and, we can decide on and go from there.
It's a good idea.
So, we'll ask them to bring something back to us at our next meeting. If that's enough time for us to look at. Yeah,
About the Terry? Yes. Sorry, I can't hear you online.
So whatever you are talking about the park signs, are you wanting our Public Works Department to make those signs, or are you wanting to purchase some signs? What are your thoughts?
my suggestion is if Public Works can make them, it will be cheaper. I think if we can, all that we can do in-house.
And normally it's just a solid. Colored one.
Yeah.
That's how-
It's convenient.
I
I think we need an idea of two different kinds. Because if we're gonna do signs in the parks, we need something a little bit better than just a plaque.
Then just
But-
no drinking here.
But the pet thing, it needs to be on your city signs. Okay. Flat ones. But the other one should be historic. Okay. Or modern, just where we'll know what we're looking for.
Okay.
Mr. Jefferson? Once staff comes back with a recommendation at the next meeting, and then the committee can make a recommendation to the council at that point.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Identify the funding. Speaker not-
It's working, ma'am.
So the concurrence is to have staff come back with a recommendation to create a plan for consistent city signage for all city parks and welcome signs for the entrances into the city. Is that the direction we're giving the staff? And then they'll come back with a plan, and then we'll make a recommendation. This committee will make a recommendation to the
To
council.
the council.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not moving forward with any sign making. No. Right.
Okay.
Just making sure.
We're gonna have some kind of size control looking for on DOT right away, but all that has to be approved by DOT before we can even consider what kind of sign. So to move forward to, like I said, the welcome signs, it's gotta be approved by DOT prior to us doing anything, size, what material they're made out of, where we're gonna put them, the exact location. The DOT has to go out there, stake it out, and then approve you to put them up there.
Do they do that? I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Ms. Mo.
So like if you're at Lake Isabel Park, for instance, and it's not on, so you still have to get DOT?
No, if it's your, I'm talking about 44190.
The welcome
You talking about the welcome?
Oh, you're talking about the welcome signs. I got you.
Now your signs for your parks, the city determines where they go.
Okay,
And like I said, they're just a simple sign to go on the ground, but when you deal with DOT,
I got you.
because you have to go out there and stake out the area, when a DOT inspector has to go out and say, yeah, you can put it here because there's so much stuff in the ground. They have certain size, certain heights, and certain materials out there. So we kind of have to, what I did last time, I got with several different cities and kind of see what they had with DOT and allowed them, and then that's kind of what I went with.
Mhm.
You know,
Do DOT, have any input on the material that you use to build a sign with?
sometimes they will, Troy said, it's kind of just, if we go with like a standard sign that they do all over, like Live Oak has some obviously has the same ones that they've done with, they give me something I wouldn't looked at. As long as we stay with theirs, most of them are styrofoam cutout signs that go on carol board, and they're put up, they last for several years in the rain, they're not lit by no means. It's just a basic sign, I mean, you can have it, they're routed out so they can make any design you want. It's just, kind of what the price is gonna cost and what you really want. So if you want it like Lake City established in a certain time, and like a wood look that brings back the old,
Mhm.
just however you wanna do them. You don't wanna go put a plywood sign out there, spend a bunch of money, then 8 months down the road, you gotta buy another one, to put it out there. And so the longevity is a pretty good thing too. And there's a lot of signs that I found that are on state contract that we could, piggyback off of too.
Oh, that'd be good.
Like, get with the company, see what they got. Go from there. Cause like I said before, you can go from a sign from $20 to, 1,000.
Mr. Jefferson? Would it be possible if we found some signs as we travel around that we could just take a picture and send to you?
Yes, sir.
And you could kind of tell us that won't work, that will work?
And that's what I did. I went to LIFO, Lake Butler, Troy Register, the one that we inspect audit, which is our local
Uh-huh.
DOT reps. He told me to sign, stay and inspect it. So I've already went and looked at it. I've been looking into it before.
Uh-huh.
So like I said, they're, pretty easy to put up and install. Like the crews can install them, because like I said, most of them are just 2 boards in the ground. They're decorated and they're put together for sign companies can install them for you too.
I don't have your email address, but I have Terry's. Can I just shoot the picture of her and you can get with? Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Okay, thank you, Brian. Yeah.
Kimbrasia Lee, 1335 Southwest 60th Road. My question was, when we were talking about the park signs, and you guys say that you were gonna get together and you wanted to try to have the signs to look uniform, possibly. My question was the community going to some type of way possibly be able to have some form of feedback on that? Or at least know when you guys were going to get together and say, okay, we're deciding on what this is, or are you guys gonna be the only ones that figure?
Well, their finding is gonna be brought back to this body, back to the, because we're gonna see it in this public, we will have public comments on whatever those findings are that are brought back to us. So you get an opportunity to see it as well.
Thank you.
Thank you for those comments, though. Thank you. Any other comments on the signage, item 3? If not, we move on to item 4, removal of the tree removal. Again, Thomas Henry, but Paul, you are stuck on address that. I know that project has already started, some of it's moving pretty downtown.
Let's do that right now.
Talked to Thomas earlier and he gave me an update on the tree removal. Half of the trees have been removed. They started at Railroad and they are now at the Keaton's right here. And they took out all the pavers and repacked the soil and now are putting, or the lime rock or whatever. And they are putting back in the pavers once the tree is out. They should have all the trees out by the end of this week. I believe he said on Sunday. And I think, and that's all he said. He said the planters are in and they got the potting soil in and the garden club will plant the plant in March. But they're gonna wait till after the festival and in March to put those out. So, but the trees are halfway done and will be completed on Sunday.
So what he's planning for is by the end of this week, have all of them out?
Yes.
All the trees out?
He said weather permitting that they should have them out by Sunday.
Any other comments on the tree removal, item 4?
I drove that way before I came here, and I like the way they did the pavers. They've done a really good job with that. It looks nice when they've taken the trees out and put those pavers in, so they're doing a good job.
Yeah, the one that I saw down there yesterday, and they're doing a good job on putting those bricks in there, filling it up.
Yep.
I know that, Mr. Jefferson, I know that.
It looks different coming from that end downtown with those trees gone. Big difference.
That we owe the garden club a debt of thanks that, I think they don't get the thanks like they should to make Lake City with the signs and decorations and just caring about what it looks like.
Put in a lot of work in the downtown area. Any other comments on item 4? Now we move to item 5, the opening of Sally Mae Park, Sally Mae General Park. I think what they put up the privacy fence, which was the last big item down at the park. That is now finished. And the park is now in a position, I think it could be utilized by the public. And, but the item that was brought up about signs, I think those need to be in place before it is officially, if that's what the council wants to do, just to open it. Those signage need to be in place before it is officially open. So I was recommend that we get the signage, there and soon thereafter, after that is complete, then we can decide on a grand opening. Don't want to sit. I mean, don't want to recommend that ahead of getting the signage in place for it. I think that would be the most appropriate thing to do, is to get the signage in place, get everything in place before we officially open it. But as Mr. Bowden had said, I've seen them too, some people that had already started using it, the park, not heavily used, but people are going in there. But we want to, I think those signage need to be in there before we officially open it, public use. And once we get that, I think we can decide on our official opening date.
Mr. Jefferson, where are we on purchasing the lot next to the park for parking?
Well, it's my understanding that the family was just dragging around doing the probate, but at one of our meetings recently, they mentioned, somebody said that the family didn't want to sell it.
Yeah.
So I think we, as a council, need to decide whether we're gonna do eminent domain and go ahead and move forward with it, since it's not moving any other way.
I talked with one of the family members more than a month ago, and he was the one to tell me that they were not interested, that it was in probate, and that they were not interested in selling it. That they did not want to donate it either. What he said, so.
That really needs to be purchased if possible, because there really is no parking. So, but you can only buy it if they want to sell it. So.
I thought that they would want to sell it.
I did too.
Family members, but I spoke with one of the heirs more than a month ago, and that was, the reply that I got from him. Yeah.
But that's,
Yeah.
I want to say to this committee, like I said, to the council, I'm not a big fan of eminent domain. There's a reason why we have eminent domain. And when you get to a point where a family is held, 7 or 6, and it's scattered all over the country, there comes a time that you got to do what's in the best interest of the city. As I said at the meeting, we would have an interstate highway system today, but for eminent domain, because nobody want to sell their land, And so it comes to the point now that if they're not willing to sell, then I'm sure that the city attorney can come up with the necessary documents, and we can move toward eminent domain, even mean putting the money in a trust, set it aside, at some point in time when the family get together. Because you said we're taking it, but the government really not taking it, they're being compensated for it. But I just can't imagine the city of Lake City has spent money we spent on that part and going to spend some more money to allow it to sit there without parking. And you're talking about a piece of land that they can't even use. You can't even put a house on that piece of land. That's how small it is. So they actually holding up progress. That's why I'm not a big fan of it, but there comes a time you got to do what's in the best interest. And you just got to say, look, if you don't want to sell it, yeah, let's go down and start the process, and we move on. We have a park, we have somewhere to park. as I said at the meeting, you know, I saw Lincoln Park at the S&S on the corner of Long and, I guess that's Main. Park there and walk down into the park with the kids. That's just absolutely too far, you know. And it started raining, that means you got to get back down there. And it's not heavily used now, but just think the time gonna come. People don't wanna go there, you know, so I just want to say, at the same time, now for the city council to authorize the city attorney, to, hey, let's go ahead and do what we need to do to get ownership of that piece of property and whatever it takes.
Because never at any time that, during that conversation I had with him, that he gave me any indication that the family had future plans for using that property. And in terms of, but as Mr. Bowden said, it's not conducive now to, residential living anyway, because it's not large enough now to put anything on there.
Well, I think we need to move forward.
I think from this committee, then, that we make a recommendation to the council, to make a recommendation one way or another, either to move forward with it or don't. But, we can, make a recommendation to the council.
I don't see that we have any choice, really.
No, don't have any choice right now.
So you need a motion for that?
I need a motion, to make the recommendation to the council.
I'll make the motion that we move toward eminent domain on the property adjacent to South Manchester Park.
And I'll say,
We have a motion and a second. All in favor of the motion, signify by saying yeah, yay.
Okay.
Yes,
Any opposed, like sign? Okay, so we make that recommendation to the council and we go from there. Okay. Anything else on the item 5? If not, that's all we have for the agenda here. And, we look forward to our next meeting, which will be March 8th at the same time, hopefully at 5:30.
Or close their eyes.